Leslie. I'm the Communications Manager for the League of Women Voters of California, and I am also the Project Manager of MyLeague Online, along with Amaris LeBron, who is here today and who's going to be the presenter for most of the day. Again, thank you for joining us. We have everybody in listen-only mode, and the way we'd like to structure our call today is Amaris is going to take control and be the presenter and sort of do a quick overview of the formatting in MyLO. And then while she's doing that, if you have questions, please add them in your chat box. If you're not able to use the chat box, please use the hand raise or the question mark in the right-hand corner of the GoToWebinar interface. And we will make sure to call on you at the end. We're hoping that we have some similar questions, so in chat I can call them all and they'll rise to the top. I'll pose them to Amaris and she will answer them in real time and demonstrate how to do those things as we go. So again, thank you so much for being MyLO customers. We're so happy that you're here. We are recording this webinar, and so it looks like we have about 23 people, 24, and it keeps going up. But we're gonna go ahead and get started today. So Amaris, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Elizabeth. So I'm already logged in as my webmaster, and I'm starting off on MyLeague's homepage. Because I have a page set up already, we're going to take a look at that first before we set up our own with our own formatting. So going through the Administer League site menu, I'm opening up the Manage Content, and it is this first sample page. I actually have this in a draft mode. So we have a couple of headings set up here already. The recommended formatting would be to make great use of these headings. We know that a lot of our visitors are just skimming, and most of the time they're hitting these headings and trying to get as much as they can from any description right underneath before delving into the meat of the information. So setting it up with the provided headings really gives your page the flow that many of your viewers would be skimming for. I also want to show you what this looks like on the purple and gold theme. So let's see about jumping over to the demo local site. I'm opening up from our homepage here. All right, let me once again go through to manage content. And I don't have the exact same page, but we can use one of these other pages as an idea. So let's use the test page here. We have a couple of formatted options here. We'll use this page to mimic what we have on the red and blue theme page. So jumping back over, let's edit the draft that we currently have. So jumping down to the body, I'm just going to use the text that is already here to create my headings. So it's always a good idea to not only include a title, but to have that bit of description right underneath it. You want to give your viewers a preview, almost like the summary option that you have for each content item for each page. You can give that intro just the same for each section. So before I make any formatting changes, I just want to get my outline out there, set up the line breaks where I need them to go. And starting from the top, depending on how many different sections you'll have, you can start out with either one of these, but the best way to progress these will be going down. So if you start with 3, make sure that the next one is 4. So going in order, I'm adding the formatting for the headings first. With this little intro, we want to make it look a little bit different from the typical paragraph formatting underneath. So we have the special style here. You can leave it just like that if you'd like, or you can italicize it because it does change it quite a bit. Whoops. Same thing with this line here, and you can do it in either order. Italicize and make that special. Along with this, you probably want to add a picture on the page. We do already have one in the main image, but we're going to pretend like that's not there so we can go through the steps of adding an image straight into the body. I have the heading style still applied because I created a new line. So just to fix that, change that back to paragraph. And now using the media browser, you can drop in either a newly uploaded image or search from what's already here. I like to narrow down my results by selecting at least one or a few of these and clicking apply. We're just going to use an icon that's here, select that and submit. You have a chance to resize the image here a bit. You also, once you click submit, will have the resizing tool around the image. So resize that to your liking. And I don't want this image to just be separate from my text. I want it to wrap. So let's make sure that image is selected, and under styles, we have a couple of image floats. So I want that to be hugging on the right side of my text. All right. The best thing for you to make use of will be your draft, especially when you're making formatting changes. We will be using that quite a bit because you'll want to make sure, okay, this is looking as I expected. As soon as you're happy with what you see, you can quickly hit apply to publish here, or as is most common, from edit draft, you can publish before you save. But we have an idea of the headings here, what it looks like as far as the layout for a red and blue theme site, and kind of same idea of the layout for a purple and gold theme site. With that set up, let's go through each one of these buttons. So I am just going back into edit draft. We'll demonstrate ones that we haven't gone over yet. Let me work down with this section. So I have the body section here, and there were a couple of additional boxes added. This is what holds the YouTube video that we were seeing, and this was that text underneath. So let's use this here. So we saw the heading formats already. You can use typical bold and italic formatting. Many of these being that what you would see in a typical word processing program, bulleted list or numbered list. Let's add a couple of those. And these here are for indenting or decreasing the indent for your lists. So these buttons won't work if you want to apply it to just regular text that is not in a list. You have undo and redo buttons. These are really nice, and if you're ever switching between text editors, if you need, just know that the undo button resets. Whenever you select text or an image, you can apply a link to it. This is our simple link it tool where you'll have to have the URL either ready to type in or copy to your clipboard. Why don't we set this up to our MyLO homepage? And you do need to, provide the either HTTP or HTTPS portion before. The target, if it's an internal page by default, will be in the same window. And then the external links will open in a new. But you can force set that if you'd like. The title appears when you hover over that link. And the class, you can apply formatting here, but it's best to apply it directly in from the toolbar. So as soon as I click insert, that adds my link to whatever I had highlighted. Jumping a couple of buttons, I want to style this link. So let's apply the button style. That's probably one of the most common stylings you'll use if you have a single link like this. It definitely makes it more stand out more. With the next button, you'll see that this unlink button only becomes active when you have a link currently set. So this allows you to remove that. Let's just use that on a portion of the link so I don't remove all of that. I unlink that period and the rest remains. The next is an anchor link. This is great for internal page navigation. Let's use a test one here. So with anchor links, you start out with the anchor, creating that, and I named that one anchor. Now you have to make the complementary link to lead to it. Because it's down here, let's make it somewhere a little further back up in the body. So it's quite a jump and we can see the difference. So I'm entering a new line right under my first section. I want to remove the formatting that was taken from that intro. So just using the remove formatting button, it sets you back up to paragraph. So let's type in the text that we want to be the link, highlight that, and insert edit link. Because this is a link to lead to an anchor, we have to add a hashtag or a pound sign first, and then type in the name of that anchor link, or that anchor, I'm sorry. So we have the link there again. That's another one you can add the button styling to. And okay, let's jump back down to continue going through these buttons. So we've set up that anchor and the link above. We have different paragraph styles. When it comes to DIV, the most prominent change, I'm taking two paragraphs here because I want to apply the DIV. The most prominent change is that the space between paragraphs has shrunken down. So this helps when you are trying to apply this to multiple paragraphs or multiple lines that you want to display closer than what the paragraph formatting allows. Moving on to the styles, we've gone over special. The notice formatting is great for making something stand out. You can use this in conjunction with other styles as well. To remove any style, you just simply have to click it once again and it toggles it off. Just make sure that you have the same section highlighted. By default, all of your text is going to be left justified, so you have a chance to right justify or center. We have an indent button here available for the text, so if you wanted to have that same function where we have it for the lists, this is where you apply it for text. And we also, the indent is kind of similar to the block quote button or the block quote formatting. I'm going to remove that indent. Let's remove all formatting. There we go. So it removed the indent when I clicked remove formatting. I wasn't able to remove it by clicking it here, so the quick fix was to use the eraser button. But using this quote, the block quote, indents it as well as puts it in quotes. With the purple and gold theme, we have a bit of a different look, and this is one that we can add to the red and blue to show that difference. We've used this button quite a bit already. The remove formatting will be very good to you whenever you're having any trouble here. You can insert a symbol. And these will be really just depending up to you, whatever you'd like to add there. The paste as plain text is a great button if your browser doesn't allow for that option. So as soon as I click that, I'm in a Google Chrome browser and I get the warning that I am now able to paste in plain text mode. So if I'm copying from Word or I'm copying from somewhere that has already pre-formatted that text, then this is going to be the best way for me to get a clean start with formatting it myself. Because I don't have any formatted text copied, let's see if I can just copy what I have. And why don't we add a new box so that we can tell the difference? So you have the paste as plain text available in the toolbar, but as far as being in a Google Chrome browser, if you right click, you do have the option to paste as plain text. I know that Internet Explorer does not offer the option, just from personal experience. So know that if you're in the same browser, you have that at your disposal. So let's apply that again. Make sure we have that enabled for this one as well. And let's just paste. We had that plain text enabled, so it removed everything, all the formatting that was applied from here to here. Another one which is similar is pasting from Word. This again, it's going to do its best to reinterpret the formatting that comes from the original source, and rather than removing all of the formatting, it's going to do its best to apply our formatting to it, the MyLO formatting, the WYSIWYG formatting. We also can create a table. This is really nice to control here. I know that I've seen these across sites where they display maybe board information or contact info. So using this insert edit table is where you get started. You can select the columns and rows. The alignment of where you want it to sit on the page will be selected here. So leaving it as not set will by default sit on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to center that one. The class would apply formatting to the entire table. So I don't want to do that. I'm going to leave that to the WYSIWYG editor. So let's insert that table. You can either resize it now or just start adding in your text. And you can format the same way. Let's add in some quick text here. And let's say I don't actually want these two rows here or these two columns here. As soon as I have a table, I am able to use the buttons for table editing. Those were blank. I'm clicking back out from the table, and those buttons are only available when you have an active table on within your WYSIWYG. So make sure you have the browse or your mouse in the column you want removed and use the delete column button. Let's say I want to add, you have two different insert buttons for column and row. And really these are just typical settings for table that you would see like in a word processing program. So table row properties, you can change these a bit as far as the row type. These will be, let's see, let's use that as a footer and add text here so that you can see what that looks like. By default, these rows will always be set to body. And we have merging and splitting of cells. With the last few buttons, let's create a link on that first word there. Link to content.
Amaris, when
Yes.
you're ready, when you're done with your table here, I do have a few questions in the queue, and maybe you could embrace some of them as you're doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and put them out there, just so that we can maybe incorporate them into what you're already saying. And so one of the questions is about the ability to add special formatting. If you can show how to add horizontal lines or underlines, someone called it, but actually I think they mean just adding a horizontal line in there. And also how to insert a JPEG, a large JPEG that's an image of a flyer instead of a PDF, which I think is fantastic. So if you can incorporate those in your next series of instructions, that'd be great. And it'll answer a couple of the questions we have in queue.
Awesome. Definitely. Okay, yeah, let's go over that, the special first. So with just the same with any formatting, as long as you highlight the section that you want to see changed, that's the big first step. With styles, that's where you're able to apply that special formatting. This can be applied anywhere throughout the page, so it's up to you. We were going over this earlier and saying that it's best to add this as a descriptor, either as at the top of the page to describe the page itself, maybe here, or adding it as a description under each heading. It's really up to you. You can add it anywhere, but really just making sure that you highlight with your cursor what you want to see changed and select special from the dropdown. And this is one of those, as soon as you select it again, it's removed. With the horizontal line, that's actually not an option to add that in. The workaround would be to add it by text, but then you're getting into the issue of mobile optimization. That line will look a certain way on desktop, but may not show up as great on a mobile phone or whatever mobile device. So the workaround could be adding just a line break itself, and maybe you can use a couple of these symbols rather than providing a full line that goes across the screen. You could choose a couple of these here, and I'm just gonna choose that one for example's sake, and I'm copying that so I have a couple of those. And highlight that, and we can center it. And you can add as many symbols as you'd like, just to give some separation, but I'd recommend keeping that quite light, so that if it were let's say over 20 characters, and a smaller mobile phone might display that as 2 to 3 lines, just an example, but keeping that light, that's another way of providing separation if that's what you're looking for. I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. Let's add a little more. Okay. And adding an image. Yeah, let's go ahead and add that to the top of our section here. Anytime that I make a new line under some pre-established formatting, I'm just going to remove formatting so I'm starting fresh. So let's use the media browser here. I can upload a new file from my own computer, or if I had a YouTube or Vimeo video to share, I can just plug in the URL directly there. And we have uploaded files already. So these are custom to either you or your league, or you can choose from all of the files. Again, here in type, I like to choose and narrow down my list, because I know I'm only looking for an image. I want to make sure the document links or documents are removed from my search. You can also choose how many you see per page if you want to give yourself a little bit less to skim through. But ultimately, as soon as you find the picture that you want, select that. You can either double click it or select and submit. Same thing. Here, the alt text is only visible if the image doesn't load, so that would be made public. But the title text is another that would be public if a user hovers over it. But the file description and the link image, those are actually private. So the link image, if you wanted to have this image linked to somewhere, don't use this field here. We're going to use something else. Again, you can toggle the display size a bit. I am going to choose quarter size so that it hopefully helps me to shrink that down. And it does. So we have our image here. I want to add a link. Let's say I want this to lead to my history page or my about page. I am going to make sure that this image is selected and using the link to content icon this time. So this unfortunately did not load as I was looking for it to. If that ever happens, just reload your browser. This is one of those things that can happen with the browser that you may be using. So just make sure that you save every now and then too, and reload if this comes up.
Amaris, I have a couple more questions.
Yes.
Can you insert images in a table for a photo gallery, for example? Or what would be another option? Also, can you confirm that underlining is not available?
Oh, yes. Yeah, underlining is actually not a formatting option. Yeah. And
so then you can talk about inserting the images in a table for a photo gallery or another way to do a photo gallery?
yeah, definitely. Let's add to the table that we actually had here. Locate that. Okay, so I hadn't saved that there. Why don't we actually jump over to the red and blue? I have a table here. We'll work off of what we already have. So you definitely can add images to a table. As far as a photo gallery, I don't know, how much space somebody would be looking to use, but you could also just add them straight to the page. But let's go through adding them to a table first. Just removing the text from the top line, because I want to make use of that. Let's make my job easier and remove one column. So I'm going to add an image to each one of those. Let's use the media browser and select what's already here. And rather than searching through, I'm just selecting the ones at the top. So let's submit that. And because it's in a table, I want to make this as small as it can be just to make my job easier of resizing. I don't want it to blow up the size of the table too large. So display as a thumbnail and submit. So that brings it down quite a bit. You can resize even more. So I'm going to follow that process 3 more times. And it'd be very similar if you were uploading an image for yourself. You would just have a couple more steps, but for the most part,
And another
it is
question
fairly
about
easy.
images. Rachel's having a problem. She says she cannot resize her image in her editor. Is that because she's having a browser issue? She's using Firefox.
It could be. I haven't personally used Firefox, so I can't exactly speak to what the experience would be. But if the resizing window isn't showing up, then it's definitely worth trying another browser if that's available, because that could be the underlying issue. I don't know if also if you've ever had any slow activity or internet slowdown or anything like that. Internet connection can possibly affect that too. Just if your browser is maybe not loading properly, because I've experienced that before. If a browser doesn't load properly, sometimes all of the functions that either are available through the site or through WYSIWYG may not be available. So yeah, definitely try another browser first. If that doesn't make any difference, then it could possibly be just a connectivity issue. But you do also have the media browser here. So even when you have dropped an image down into your page, you can select that image even without the resizing border showing up, and open the media browser again. And once you go to display as, select thumbnail, and I had already resized it, so but it would have shrunk down if you still had it displaying at normal size. So yeah, this is one way that you can do it. I have a picture here, whoops, already. This was kind of the way I was also saying you can freely display the images in the page. I've started a new line. Whoops, let's make sure I started a new line. So I'm clicking enter. Because I'm not seeing my cursor, I'm going over to my remove formatting button. And there I am. So I am going to add in another image. And we're going to leave this one as full content because it's going to be displaying within the page. Whoa, it is bigger than I thought. Let's use the media browser to resize that rather than my outline. So let's do quarter size. I like that. Okay. You have the option to add a caption. This is one way to do the photo gallery. When you insert, by default, it's taken to the left. Oops, and it looks like we have some formatting here. We're just going to use the remove formatting. And if that doesn't work, we just backspace. All right. So I think that was pulled down from the donate by accident. So it pulled my image back to the left, and I want to see that over on the right side. So let's open up that caption once again and float to the right. So that helps me see it once again. Because this image is already floating on the left, we can just easily add that without a float and insert. Oh no, let's actually float it. Because it is quite close to this image, the caption is interacting with it without a float. So we can easily fix that by floating that to the left. So that's another way. You can leave them in the center and leave each image and caption in the center so that it's taking up the width of each page, or taking up the width of the page that it's on. But let's take a look at that saved and what it looks like on the front. All right, so I'm looking at my draft already. All right. So we have one way with what I would imagine the description would be underneath, and then kind of option 2, using the captions throughout the page. Do we have some more questions to go over?
Yes, sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Here's a great question from Brenna. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, but Brenna asked, how can I be sure I'm not going live while making this draft online?
That is a great question. It will definitely be different for a site that is not live. If your site is just altogether not public yet, and that's through the homepage, if that change wasn't made to set the site to public, then any changes that you publish or save as a draft within your site will not be shown, will not be made public. But if your site is already made public, then the biggest tell for you to know that your latest changes are still in a draft will be that you have the view draft and edit draft buttons. So let's actually visit. I'm going to visit this same page while I'm logged out. So let's take the address and copy this. I'm going to open this in a new tab and then log myself out. Oh, I probably have to paste that in once I log out. Okay, so paste that back in. Because I left the draft in there, it's obviously not visible to me. So I'm going to remove the word draft so I can look at the public page. So our most recent changes are not there because I'm only able to view what's published. So these two buttons are your biggest tell. As soon as you have a published version only, then these two buttons come together and they're the new draft button. So I'm going to jump down here. This is another tell. If you have this revision box that tells you that this is the most recent draft revision, then you know that this is not what the public is seeing. So I'm going to apply the draft changes. Whoops, I'm not logged in, so I'm not allowed to do that. Let's log in and jump back so I can actually apply.
And
All
while
right.
you're waiting to apply, I'm going to throw another couple questions at you. You might be able to incorporate in your answers here. Is Maddie's asking if you can place pictures on the page regardless of the text line. So I think what Maddie means is anywhere on the page. Correct me if I'm wrong in chat, Maddie. And also, so we did get a report back that the new browser in Chrome, she was able to edit the image properly. So if you two are having a problem resizing your image in your editor, try the Chrome browser. And then
Awesome.
Also in what you're showing now about the publishing, can you also just show how you start to create a piece of content? Just where do you start to create any piece of content? She said she's trying to add something new, anything new. So I thought maybe you could show that. And when you're done there, I have another couple questions for you.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, let's start with a new piece of something. The best place to start with this is your homepage. You need to make it back to your administer league site menu. So your homepage holds that, your action alerts page, the calendar, positions, and members only. Those are the only pages and articles throughout your site. These are the only ones that will house the Administer League site menu. So make your way to any one of those pages so that you can open the Administer League site menu. All the 4 links up here are for managing what's already there. So choose the type that you want to start with. We're just going to go with a basic page for this demo. And because this is a brand new piece of content that you're going to be creating, you're not going to see your league's logo at the top because it does not yet belong to your league until you save it. Let's go with my usual sample page. I'm assuming that the image question was more about the body, but why don't we go ahead and add an image here as well. The main and alternate hero image fields are great if you want to provide an image at the top of the screen. Let's add a large image so I know that that will display. So the main image, if you add an image here, it's going to display at the top of the screen and for lists of content. So if it's an event, it will display this little thumbnail on the calendar. If you've promoted this page to the front page, to your home page, it'll display this little main image. And we'll go through that. And the alternate hero image allows you to show a different page or a different image at the top of the page. Every other area would remain displaying the main image, just the top of the page changes.
And I have another question you may be able to incorporate in the body of what you're doing. Maddie also asked a sort of follow-up question about noticed that some things like the page title don't show up until the page is actually published.
Yes, that is correct. It does have to be published at least once to display the title. As long as you go through that first publishing, then you'll have the title display.
Great. And also, I think this is pretty relevant as we're showing how to publish and save. Carolyn asks, after editing, does one save before publish? Is that the proper method, or publish before save? She said spacing of the options on the page could better point to the sequence. Agree. But she says sometimes her changes don't change, though she's come to save, publish, save to try to make that happen. Is there any tips that we can give Carolyn on how to handle that?
I would definitely empower anybody to publish and save if you are confident in your changes. The main reason for allowing this draft moderation state where you can save as a draft is for making the changes within your browser. So if you know that the changes you're making may need a tweak here or there, or you're just testing things out, then that's the best time to use just saving as draft. But if you have already seen what it's going to look like and you're happy with that within the WYSIWYG editor, then going straight to setting the moderation state to published and saving, that you can do that as well. So I think it's really up to the user and the types of changes that you're making, especially if it's one tweak and you know it was maybe a typo and it's really nothing that you have to double check on the front end. Those are situations where you can certainly publish right away. So I'm going to just dress this text up that I plugged into here so that we can, we can have something to work with. So this is a good example of something that may happen when I have only highlighted one line and there is some hitchhikers here. The way to separate this or to remedy this is to separate those lines, make sure that there's at least one line in between them, and highlight the section that we're going to set back to paragraph. Either click heading 2, or if it's still applied, just send it back to paragraph. Either by clicking the same heading that is applied to it will remove it, or set it back to the one you wish. That may happen often, especially when there are lines of text so close. They can often absorb the formatting of the other. I'm going to add an image without wrapping that within the text. So using that media browser, again, I am just pulling from the already uploaded files here. Let's shrink this down a bit. Let's say quarter size. I'm assuming that this was kind of the nature of the question of seeing the image in its own line. You definitely can. Like I said, we have the centering and the floating available, but if you do not add any formatting, it's by default sitting on the left side, just like the text. So, whoops, let me not scroll too fast. Mhm.
Also, how can you adjust the spacing between the lines of text?
Yeah, so let's see here. I have some copied text and the spacing is a bit odd here. I see that the formatting is set to paragraph, so I should have some spacing in between, just like we see the spacing between this line and the lines above it. That little space here, that's the default for paragraph. And so for these lines down here, if you're not seeing that space, you can simply add that line yourself. It will add an extra line, so it's just a matter of adding the new line and removing it. And that default spacing for paragraph is added in. So add a new line and remove it. And whatever that previous formatting that was in there has been removed, and the WYSIWYG adds in our expected paragraph spacing. With this, remember the div is another that will change the spacing of your lines. So that's going to remove that extra padding that the paragraph allows for. So if that's the case, if you see div up here, when you highlight the section that doesn't have the right spacing, then know that if you set that back to paragraph, your spacing will change. So let's save this so we can see what that image so far looks like. You also, again, before I go past that, you have the chance to add additional boxes here. Both of them have the option to switch between the text editors, just like you have here. So it really doesn't matter if you add one or the other, because you'll still have the ability to move between text editors. And attachments is another place to add media. This will be, I think it's reserved more for documents and PDFs. Images may not be an available media type to add here because it only displays as links rather than an actual image. So this is probably only an option to some webmasters, because the webmaster LWVC demo belongs to 2 leagues. I have to select which one this is going to display on. Let's actually show this on a purple and gold site. That's the demo local. And we're going to save it as a draft because I'm not sure yet about those changes. All right, so I did choose a main image here. It is quite large, but there goes our image right in the body. And it looks like, yeah, we won't see the title until this is published. And that's also true for, I think this image is a little too large. So if I want to remove this, I will need to publish before I see that image removed. So if you ever have images in the main image or alternate hero image fields, you won't see, they won't leave the page until it's published, or vice versa. If you've made a change there or added an image to any one of those fields, you won't see it until it's published. I'm going to save this as a draft to show that. Oh, no, it is still there because this is a current draft. Okay, sorry about that. So as long as you are still working in draft only without a published version, then those rules of publishing for those image fields don't apply. Once you have a published version, you will need to publish changes to those fields before seeing it live. So I don't know if that was the question about the image that we were looking for to place the image on the page.
I think it might have been, but there's a couple other
Okay,
follow-up questions.
awesome.
And it's about, can we have text wrapping around our images? Um, and then, let's see, when do you use add additional formatted text? So those are two more questions. And then there's two more after that. So let's go ahead and let you answer those. And then I will add the other ones.
Okay, so to make the text wrap around, we want to select the image rather than the text that we want wrapped. So under styles, we're using float right or float left, and that's either going to make the text float to the right of the image or make the text float to the left of it. Either way, you have that option, and just know that the more you select here and within the styles, they just stack up. So make sure that you select that again to remove it. With clear floats, that is another one you will have to unselect or select it again to deactivate it. So let's save, well, before we save that, let's talk about the adding additional formatted text. For my own personal use, I will usually add HTML code. Let's say if you have a PayPal button or a Vote 411 widget, I usually like to add that HTML code into its own text box so that there's no confusion of where that is at. So if that embed code is splitting your page and you still want to continue adding, that's the best way to keep having content down your page. The other, you really can just make use of this also for sectioning out your page. So if you were to only have, let's say maybe the intro information, if this is going to be a meaty page, this can be almost like an outline for yourself so that you have the intro up here and each additional formatted text box is its own section underneath that. You really can use these however, but at least for the recommended, yeah, I try to keep your HTML embed code separate so that it's easier to work with in your page. Because when you're working with HTML embed code, you need the text box to be saved as full HTML. So yeah, those are the best times, but you can really make use of them anytime. And they won't show a separation on the page to the audience. You'll just be able to see that separation for yourself.
Thanks so much, Amaris. And we are actually
Definitely.
getting close to the 10 o'clock hour. So I have two final questions, I think, before we're going to wrap it up today. And just as sort of a housekeeping reminder, you're always welcome to email us at MyLO@LWVC, or we encourage you to use our Google support group where there's other users, and sometimes you guys have great ideas and we learn even from you. So feel free to use the Google support group, which is in there, and or email us at any time. We're hoping to have these webinars monthly. The COVID crisis got us a little off our schedule, but I think we're back on it, and we're totally open to taking suggestions on the next topic for the next webinar, so feel free to shoot that our direction. And the final two questions that I have are, remember when you were talking about tables, Amaris? One user felt as though the lines were kind of light. Is there a way to make them wider and darker? So that question. And then also, can you address cloning pages, and does that affect the original page?
No, I'll address the second one first, and then let's go over that table formatting at last. So the cloning option is actually available to the author of that content. So only I, as LWVC demo, can clone this page because I myself created it. If I was logged in as Joe Webmaster, then that option just would not be available to me. We have it set this way because otherwise it would be a global right where anybody would have the right to clone anybody's content. So this is the way to make sure that it's not just a free-for-all, but when you clone a page, it's not making any changes to the original. You're really just taking a copy, and whatever changes you do make to that clone are just for wherever you are cloning that to. So it's going to be a whole new piece of content, a whole new page, but it just has the same look and possibly the same title, depending on how much was changed. So everybody has the chance to clone their own content. Let's go ahead and add in a table so that we can play around with that. I've actually not tried to darken the line, so let's check this out together. We're going to insert just the basic the default settings just so that we have a table to work with. So going back in, we do have an advanced tab, but some of these will require advanced setup. So I don't believe that these will be what we're looking for. The border color may possibly be the one to add that. No, here we go. We don't have a border set, so that is the reason why we are not seeing that. You want to put this in pixels, so that's why I'm a little hesitant. I'm not sure how many pixels would be good enough. 7 is quite thick. But let's check that out once we save. It didn't unfortunately stick. I'm not sure if that, it actually might have provided those lines. I don't think that our table usually provides any outline. So I would recommend playing around with, let me go back to that. So I highlighted the table, playing around with the border and the advanced tab. You can check out to see if the border changes or the border color changes as you apply these options. So yeah, test that out. The border itself, I want to see that with it back to 0 actually. Whoops. Let's just add a new one here. Okay, so we'll see those side by side, one with the border and one without. Okay, so yeah, unfortunately, there isn't the option for changing the colors of the table, but you can at least change the formatting of your text. So making this stand out, the headers with the headings available or special. Making use of the text to show your separation will be key here.
Thank you so much, Amaris. And just another note overall about tables is, although we are using them, we do want to remind you that sometimes they do pose an accessibility issue for some folks coming to sites. So while I do appreciate the questions about it, I would use them a little bit sparingly if you think that potentially your audience might be reaching people that have accessibility issues. And many of the choices that we have made in our system are related to accessibility and making sure that everyone has access, the same access to our sites. So with that, we're going to wrap up our call, and thank you again so much to all of you in attendance today. You will receive a recording of this webinar in about 24 hours it takes to process from the GoToWebinar system. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Amaris or I. The best email to use is mylo@lwvc.org, or feel free to go to the Google group. Again, thanks for being here and have a wonderful long 3-day weekend, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.